Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. This feels really weird doing this. Buddy must sit and do this with a script. It just feels really weird. All right, so Amy's got a birthday hat on. Are we celebrating anything? What's going on, Marla?
It's your 6th sober birthday.
No way, is it?
Yeah,
get in there.
How'd you do it?
How did I do it? Well, I've now that you ask, I just happen to have this speech written out, and I'd like to thank my mum and dad. And no, do you know, it's been an absolute adventure. And it reminded me that we've been together, Marla, me and you, nearly 5 years. Because I was 14 months sober when I met you.
I apparently was not sober when I met you, so I am now.
But no, it's been great. So, do you know, I couldn't have done it without you guys, because this is the meeting that I come to that actually pushes me. I do a lot of stuff for other people, but this is the one that I come to. This is the meeting that I love coming to. It's the one that I look forward to, because I get pushed by you guys and I get challenged by you guys as well. So thank you very much for everything you've done. I'd like to thank my sponsor as well, who phoned me a day late. Not that I'm casting anything up, but he phoned me a day late to say, shoot, I forgot. Because that's how he speaks. Yeah, so a couple of quick announcements before we get going. We've got the Tao of Our Understanding Facebook page. So if you want to join in the conversation, jump in there. We actually post this meeting. So we record this on Zoom, and then we post the video to Zoom as well. So if you want to get involved in the conversation, jump in there. We post the link for the meeting as well. So if you want to get involved in the meeting, actually join the meeting. I think is it 4 p.m. Eastern? Is that the time user?
4 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah. So if you have the time, feel free to join us. What's Buddy's website address? Is it buddyc.org?
buddyc.org.
buddyc.org. Jump onto that as well. There's plenty of resources as well. You can get all the books, all the resources that we use for these meetings as well as Buddy's book, Powerless But Not Helpless, which is a great read. You can sign up for the daily devotionals as well, so you get a quick 2-minute daily devotional emailed out to you. It's a reading from the Tao, a reading from Buddy's book, and what it means in between it as well. So please sign up for them. Anything else? Anybody else? Anybody else want to mention anything? Amy, the Fourth Dimensions meeting?
Yeah, nightly 9 p.m. Eastern online meeting. Fourth Dimensioners is still rocking. ZoomAAmeetings.com, as long as you're signed into Zoom, will take you right there every single night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Every single night. How long has that been going? That must be coming in its third year.
2.5 years. Yeah, we started March of 2020.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
And it's great that it's still going.
Just past my bedtime, though.
It's just past my bedtime because it's 3 a.m. over here. And I've been to a couple of the meetings when I was just lying awake. So I thought I'll just join a couple of meetings. So today we've got Marla, Amy, and Pedro. Pedro, how you doing?
Doing well, Craig. Thank you.
Excellent. We were just commenting before the meeting how much you look like Mark Ruffalo. And now it's just clicked with Amy. Yeah, because Amy sat there saying, do you know what? I recognise him. And that's who it is. It's Mark Ruffalo's double. So Buddy is at a silent meditation retreat this weekend. So he can't be with us. So he's asked us to keep this ship going. Who could actually manage a silent meditation retreat?
If everybody around you is also silent, you might be able to pull it off.
Or you'd feel more inclined to make the most noise.
It's really hard to eat silently with people that you're sitting across from and next to, like, because you want to talk to them and you have to eat silently and just stare into space. It's very uncomfortable. Maybe that's the point.
That's the point, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I would get thrown out. But I'd be interested to see how they would throw me out. Would they tell me I was thrown out, or would they sign me out the door? Would they just point their fingers and give me that look and make me leave?
They just tilt their head and go.
Yeah, no, I would struggle. So this week we're going to quickly have a recap on the Byron Katie's The Works. We'll quickly run through where we were last week. We got to the inquiry, and then we'll jump onto the turnaround, which is turning the statements around for us. So just quickly, so we know what we're doing. The inquiry, we've done the judge your neighbour worksheet. Now, I love judging your neighbour. It's doing somebody else's inventory and really telling myself what's wrong with them. And she actually asks you to be very judgmental and very petty when you're actually doing these things. So you're having a look at people and you're taking them inventory, telling them what's wrong with them. And some of the questions that she asks you to ask yourself once you've done it. So I'll just quickly read the part that says, the work is meditation. It's like diving into yourself. Contemplate the questions, drop down into the depths of yourself, listen and wait. The answer will find your question. The answer will find your question. Now, I struggled with that to start with. No matter how closed down or hopeless you think you are, the gentler polarity of mind, which I call the heart, will meet the polarity that is confused because it hasn't yet been enlightened to itself. You may begin to experience revelations about yourself and your world, revelations that will transform your whole life forever. Let's look at the statements that you have written. So when you're doing this worksheet, if you've done the worksheet, pull it up in front of you and ask yourself these questions. Is it true? Reality for me is what is true. So if I'm asking myself, so I brought up the conversation last week that Buddy sticks up for everybody else and doesn't take my sides. I usually trip myself up when I say, is it true? And I have to really sit back and think, you know what, it's not true. So some of these statements we can actually head off very quickly just by asking ourselves the genuine question, is what I think about this person really true? The second question, can you absolutely know that it's true? So the first one is, Craig, is that really how it is? And I'm like, yeah, of course it is. And I'm like, Craig, is it really how it is? Are you sure that's how it is? Can I absolutely know that it's true? Can I absolutely 100% know that it's true? The third question we would ask ourselves is, how do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? So with this question, we begin to notice internal cause and effect. You can see that when you believe the thought, there is an uneasy feeling, a disturbance that can range from mild discomfort to fear or panic. I would notice thoughts like, people should be more loving, and I would see that thoughts like these caused a feeling of uneasiness in me. I noticed that prior to the thought, there was peace. My mind was quiet and serene. This is who I am without my story. So this is how I am without putting my perceptions and my judgments onto people. The fourth question is, who would you be without the thought? Now, this is a very powerful question. Who or what would you be without the thought? How would you be without the thought? Visualize yourself standing in the presence of the person you have written about when he or she is doing what you think he or she shouldn't be doing. Now, just for a minute or two, close your eyes and imagine who you would be if you didn't even have the ability to think this thought. How would your life be different in the same situation without the thought? Okay. So for many people, life without this story is literally unimaginable. They have no reference for it. So I don't know is a common answer to this question. Other people answer by saying, I'd be free, I'd be peaceful, I'd be a more loving person. So if I was to look at it for myself, if I was to be less judgmental on people, I think I would definitely have a sense of ease, a sense of peace. And you know what? I would probably have a lot more free time on my hands rather than having to spend all this time judging people.
A lot more headspace for things that are more important,
That's exactly it. Yeah. So any comments on that we've read before we move to turn it around?
Can you ever really know if it's really true?
And isn't it all relative to your current circumstances, maybe? What was true for me a few years ago may not be exactly true for me today.
That's for sure.
What we're looking at in this instance is what I'm saying about others, or are my thoughts about others, or are my perceptions of others true? So I very easily convince myself that I know that such and such is a lazy beggar at work. I don't even look at him as a co-worker because he doesn't even do any work. But then I have to ask myself, in those moments of peace and calm, is it true? Does he actually do any work? Do I really think that about this person? So it's not really asking the questions about myself. It's asking the questions, is it really true what you're thinking about the person? So the thoughts I have about myself and where I am or where I've been, that's not really what we're looking at the moment. It's really what we're thinking about other people. Marla?
So, I'm sorry to have interrupted. I formed a judgment about AA meetings at the beginning of my recovery journey. And it was like a blanket feeling. It was a blanket judgment that meetings like this, I should never, ever go to because I hate all the people. Was that true? No. There was nothing true about it. But you know what? How do you see that when you're at the beginning of inquiring about these matters? I had to come to a conclusion about AA. It's not that bad. It's actually pretty good. But I had to take time to come to that conclusion. Time to find out if it was true or not. Now it is true for me. I didn't know it right away. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so in the first instance, you weren't that open-minded about AA. You were probably the exact same as 99.9% of the people that end up going to AA or stepping into the first meeting. Whether they stick to it or not, that's entirely up to them. But we seem to have this jaded thought that I didn't want to go to AA. It wasn't just a thought one morning when I woke up, thought, I'm going to go to an AA meeting today, see what happens. It was actually a friend that says to me, when I confided in somebody, said, I'm really struggling with my drinking. And he says, well, do you know what? Why don't we take you to an AA meeting? I said, I don't want to go there. My doctor keeps telling me to go there. I don't want to go there. It's just a room full of drunks. What are these people going to teach me? So I was very narrow-minded and very closed-minded about an AA meeting because I didn't understand it. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to be going on there.
Same. I had nobody explained it to me ahead of time. I just got thrown into rehab and then popped out on the other side, go to 90 meetings in 90 days. I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't know anything. That's a problem with rehabs though, but truth.
I think what changed my mind about AA and the meetings, not so much AA at the time, but if we were focusing on the meetings, what changed my mind about the meeting was when I actually got the courage to go to the meeting. And if you want to look at it in the context of what we're doing, was what I thought about it true? And what I found is it was the exact opposite. Everybody was so loving. Everybody was so welcoming. And you know what? Everybody knew why I was there. I wanted to sneak in at the back just so nobody would come in and, because I don't have a drink problem. But everybody knew. And everybody was so loving and accepting of it, and I didn't have to worry about it. But I didn't know that at the time before I went through. Now I'm completely open-minded when I go to a meeting, but I still have that feeling when I go to some new meetings. I think to myself, oh man, do I still really want to go to this? Do I need to go to this? And if I've looked at it, is it true? Yeah, do you know what? Yeah, you really need to go to it.
It always is the truth. And whenever I don't want to go, is when I force myself to go. And I'm glad I went, But I have quick judgments also. If I'm sitting at a table and I hear somebody, I can immediately judge somebody like, oh, they're going to talk for 5 minutes. I can easily pick that person out and judge them because I know they're going to say something I don't need to hear. Or I don't know. That rabbit hole of I'm going to shut this person down right away before she even speaks, that type of judgment. And there's no truth to it at all.
I usually find that person that's going to ramble, that's the person that I really need to be listening to, because they're going to be rambling for a reason, and God's put me there for a reason. And he's like, Craig, you're going to shut up and you're going to listen to this person. And then, sometimes I take the most away from the people that I dislike the most. Anything else on that? No? Right, Amy, do you want to take it away with turn it around?
Yes. Turn it around. To do the turnarounds, find opposites of the original statement on your worksheet. Often a statement can be turned around to the self, to the other, and to the opposite. First, the turnaround to the self. Write it as if it were about you. Where you have written someone else's name, put yourself. Instead of he or she, put I. For example, Paul doesn't listen to me. Turns around to, I don't listen to myself. Find at least 3 specific, genuine examples of how this turnaround is as true as or truer than your original statement. Next is the turnaround to the other. Paul doesn't listen to me because I don't listen to Paul. A third type is a 180-degree turnaround to the extreme opposite. Paul doesn't listen to me becomes Paul does listen to me. Don't forget, for each turnaround, find at least 3 specific, genuine examples of how the turnaround is true for you in the situation. This is not about blaming yourself or feeling guilty. It's about discovering alternatives that can bring you peace. Not every statement has as many as 3 turnarounds, and some have more than 3. Some turnarounds may not make any sense to you. Don't force these. For each turnaround, go back and start with the original statement. For example, he shouldn't waste his time. Maybe turned around to, I shouldn't waste my time. I shouldn't waste his time. And he should waste his time. The turnarounds are a very powerful part of the work. As long as you think that the cause of your problem is out there, as long as you think that anyone or anything else is responsible for your suffering, the situation is hopeless. It means that you are forever in the role of the victim, that you're suffering in paradise. So bring the truth home to yourself and begin to set yourself free. It's no longer necessary to wait for people or situations to change in order to experience peace and harmony. The work is the direct way to orchestrate your own happiness.
That sounds really simple, doesn't it, Amy?
Well, does it? I mean, it does sound simple in theory, yes. But the actual application of it, that key right there, I think the key to all of this, even though I wasn't here last week, as long as you think that anyone or anything else is responsible for your suffering, the situation is hopeless. It's getting past that blame game. It's getting past that it's your fault. If you didn't do this or if you did that, then I wouldn't be this or I wouldn't be that. Forever in the role of the victim.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To even be responsible for my own suffering is a hard concept to grasp, especially early in recovery it was. It was like, what do you mean? It was his fault. It was their fault. If the cops hadn't pulled me over, I would have gotten arrested for deep. You know what I mean? Like all of that stuff.
I think what it's also saying is that nobody else is responsible for your happiness. It's up to you. Your happiness is up to you.
Go ahead.
Is there a big to me, like a big fourth step is that like every time I delve deeply into why am I feeling like this about that, number one, I try to get to the truth of it. And if it's true, I'm always wrong about that person. I don't know. I'm sorry. I forgot what I was going to say.
No, I think this is why it's important, because I interact with a lot of people as well that are, and I really shouldn't judge because I have sponsored myself as well. Okay, I have done it.
We all have.
I've sat and done a 4th step with myself, and I've even done a 5th step with myself. But when it gets to the part where it says, what's your part in it? And I think this is really what's getting to what I'm seeing in this turnaround statement is, what's your part in it? Is it really true? This is your part in it, Craig. I was blind to my part in it because I didn't want to see my part in it. Whereas I think that's why it's more important to do a 5th step with somebody that's completely impartial and who's not scared to challenge you on what you're saying. So they would say, is that really true? What's your part in it, Craig? Oh, I have no part in it. Just I was there. Is that true? You had something, Amy?
I mean, I have a lot of thoughts, but it went away.
So
I will go back. Nothing happens in God's world by mistake, as the big book would say. Nothing. There are no coincidences. Literally had a conversation with someone last night. Almost the exact, not these words, but the saying. As long as it's no longer necessary to wait for people or situations to change in order to experience peace and harmony. I literally said to her, as long as you're looking out there for validation, you'll never get it. And it's really not up to me to give you that. I can encourage, I can support, I can share my experience, and I can be an example of what it looks like on the other side of the bullshit, sober still, but I can't do it for you. I can't feel your feelings. I can't be your self-worth, really.
That's a good way to put it. And be your self-worth.
That reminds me of a Pen My Children book I'm reading with one of my sponsees. And you know how all these things crop up and you think, that's funny, I've just heard that somewhere else as well. Or there's that line of thinking somewhere else. This is cropping up quite a lot for me recently. And Pen My Children, her book was Get Comfortable with Being Uncomfortable. And it's to do with a lot of self-examination. And I'm thinking to myself, do you know what? I don't like this book. this book's highlighting all my faults. It's making me actually look at myself and sit and think, who am I to sit and have these thoughts about other people? Pedro?
Yeah, Craig, the way I see it, I don't know. For me at least, when you try or you do the work, you may come up with 2 things. One of that is that what your thought is true, and it may happen. And the second thing is that it points you to show you a defect you have, a character defect or something like that. I can give you a real example. I think I quickly mentioned to you this week that I was a little peace with my work, my job, especially my leader, my manager. I hope she's not listening to this podcast. But I sent her a lot of messages this week, on the beginning of this week, and she didn't reply to me with things that I really needed her. And immediately I started to believe that, something is going on, something is happening. I don't know, or something bad is about to happen with my job or the projects, I don't know, that I'm working on. And I just got to talk to her today. I mean, before this meeting. Yesterday, I read the work because I was listening to the podcast because I lost the last part of last week. And I started to think, what if I'm wrong? What if nothing's happening? What if she's only busy? And, that's what happened. She called me today and she said that she had this huge emergency that she was taking care of. And it just showed to me how spoiled I am, needy, because, the problem was not on her. It was not her problem. It was with me, with my expectations, what I was expecting. That's what this showed me.
I'm sure it was Mark Twain that says most of the things 80% of the bad things that have happened are in my head.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So a lot of the things that he's thought were going to happen never actually happened, and all of his bad thoughts were just in his head. So what happens if you text your sponsor and he didn't get back to you? What would you think then?
Doesn't care. Yeah. But today I think he's busy.
But yeah. So if you go to that, he doesn't care. Ask yourself, is that true?
Yes. Exactly.
That's really what this is. That's really what this is asking us to do. Examine that first thought that we have. He doesn't care about me. Is that really true? Does your sponsor not care? Or does your sponsor maybe live 5 hours ahead of you? And you need him at 10 o'clock at night and it's really 3 o'clock his time?
I don't do that. No, it's exactly what happened with me this week with my boss, It's exactly what happened. This helped me. I think I told you that this week, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's exactly what happened.
And it wasn't 10 o'clock Brazil time. I was just making that up just to give the example of the fact that, if you take somebody at 10 o'clock at night, it could be 3 o'clock my time. And I'm just like, and then I wake up in the morning, there's a text from Pedro. So I get back to Pedro. Then Pedro doesn't text me back because it's 8 o'clock my time, which is 4 o'clock Brazil time. I'm like, Pedro's fell out of me because he's not texted me back. And I think to myself, is that true? No, Pedro's still in his bed.
Yeah.
So we really need to look at the thoughts of, is it true? And I can usually stop myself when I come to that first question. I was like, well, yeah, do you know what? Pedro has fell out of me. Craig, is it really true? Is it really, really true? Or is he maybe at work? Is he maybe in a meeting? Is he maybe taking some time with his family? There may be something else going on.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else on that one? I like the part where it says this is not about blaming yourself or feeling guilty. It's about discovering alternatives that can bring you peace, which is more or less just exactly what we were just saying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same when I was doing my 8th step. I don't know if anybody else has had this experience as well. When I was doing my 8th step, I kind of felt really bad about myself when I found out all these people I'd actually harmed. And when I was talking to a buddy about it, when I was doing it, I was like, I'm really struggling with this because I feel really shit about myself. I feel really bad and guilty about all this stuff that I've been doing. And that's when he says that, the 8th step's not an exercise in making yourself feel guilty. Your 8th step is just highlighting the people that you need to go make amends to. And if you are struggling with an 8th step, let's do a gratitude list on the people that you're doing that are coming up on your 8th step list. That kind of made it a little better.
Yeah. There's so much that you can use this stuff on, the turnaround. I used it, when I when I started to try and reconcile my past and, all the things that my parents supposedly did to me. It was turning all of that around that helped me really forgive them also for the supposedly things that they did. That was my truth, what they did, but what I thought they did, their truth was completely different also, that they just by what the way they were raised, what they were, how they lived. That's how they were influenced.
I had a conversation with my sister, and me and my sister didn't get on in the early years. I'm a middle child, okay, which probably explains a lot of things about me. And my sister was like, "Why didn't you like me when we were growing up?" And when I sat back and I said, "It's because you came along and you took mum and dad's love away from me, because I was the baby until you came along."
Sounds reasonable.
That's what I thought as well. But then she's like, "Look, I didn't have a choice in it. I came along."
She did not have a choice.
It's not as if she came along and took things away from me. That was my perception of it. All of a sudden, I'm mum and dad's favourite because I'm the youngest. I'm getting all this love and attention. And now somebody else comes along and now they're getting all that attention.
Now, how are you mean, you're not, as a kid, supposed to be able to think philosophically or rationally even about how you feel. Whenever your baby sister was born, I'm sure you weren't mature enough to think it's out of her control that she was born. She was just born. I shouldn't be mad at her.
Yeah, but I was. Should I have been mad at mum? Should I have been mad at mum and dad? Didn't know any better. Now I'm 43 and I still struggle to think rationally as well. So, I don't think it's just a kid's thing. But it was a conversation we had this week. You took mum's love away from me. I think, is it true? No, it wasn't. It wasn't true. My mum and dad decided to give it away.
She was adopted.
I keep saying that to her. I keep saying that. In fact, my son keeps telling my daughter that. My son's 12 and my daughter's 24. And anytime my daughter comes along, we'll be sitting watching Star Wars or something. We'll be watching, we like watching these factual programs like Star Wars and the Avengers and that sort of thing. And my daughter doesn't have a clue what's going on. And she'll ask something. And my son will say, "Look, Dad, I don't think we need a DNA test. It's an IQ test we need for Caitlin. She must have been adopted." So that's just a recurring theme every time she comes along. You were adopted. The turnaround for statement 6. Okay, so the turnaround for statement 6 on your judge your neighbour worksheet is a little different from the other turnarounds. I don't ever want to turns around to I am willing to, and I look forward to. For example, I don't ever want Paul to lie to me again turns around to I am willing to have Paul lie to me again, and I look forward to Paul lying to me again. These turnarounds about embracing all of life just as it is, saying and meaning I am willing to, creates open-mindedness, creativity, and flexibility. Any resistance you may have is softened, and that allows you to open up to the situation in your life rather than keep hopelessly applying willpower to eradicate it or push it away. Saying and meaning I look forward to actively opens you to life as it unfolds. Some of us have learned to accept what is, and I invite you to go further and actually love what is. This is our natural state. Freedom is our birthright. It's good to acknowledge that the same feelings or situation may happen again, if only in your thoughts. When you realize that suffering and discomfort are the call to inquiry and to the freedom that follows, you may actually begin to look forward to uncomfortable feelings. You may even experience them as friends coming to show you what you have not yet investigated thoroughly enough. I don't know if anybody's had to make amends. I didn't look forward to it. I did not look forward to making any amends at all. And I don't know how Amy does the amends, but the way I do it, we have 3 amends with 3 types of amends. The amends that we're going to make immediately, the ones that we'll make next, and the ones that we might not ever make. But the way that I worked through mine was that I didn't really look forward to doing it. So we'll do the easy ones first. We'll do the friends and family, do the immediate friends and family. And then after that, you're kind of realizing that it's not as bad as you made it out to be. So you kind of, I wouldn't say you're kind of enjoying it. I think that's too much of a struggle. I've never enjoyed making amends, but you get comfortable with it.
Is that a fair statement though? You get comfortable with making amends?
You get comfortable. You get comfortable
with the process.
With the process, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so for me, I'm jumping in there. I think it just depends on the amends. Like it was quite the opposite for me. The one that I did not want to make the most was the first one I started with. But I'm a rip the Band-Aid off kind of chick. I'm like, just freaking do it because it's going to suck. Embrace the suck. Do it. And then I got through it. And so for me, that then made the other ones more tolerable. Right? So it's interesting that you started one way, I started the opposite, but we ended up making amends.
And I think I've just about I've got through just about all of the amends, even the ones that I didn't want to make.
The ones that were obvious and apparent then, because even I think it's still just a process. I think it's for me at this point just staying. I guess I don't like to say I've completed anything about recovery because for me, completed is anything ending in id. Completed makes it past tense. I'm done. I don't want to ever be done. I want to continue to seek and continue to grow. And for specifically the amends that we're talking about, I just need to stay open-minded and willing to make whatever amends pops up. I mean, I didn't have one of the policemen on my list to make amends to that arrested me one night. I didn't have him on my amends. It just wasn't on my radar because I wasn't resentful at that police officer. I wasn't afraid of that police. Everything that comes with the inventory, resentment, fear, sex and harm done others, whatever. None of that stuff popped up. But when I ran into that police officer at a store, I absolutely took advantage of the opportunity to say, you know what? I was a dick that night. Thank you for potentially saving my life by taking me to jail. Because I could have continued to drink myself to death that night. I could have continued to beat on my husband and him beat on me, and we could have both ended up dead that night. So I think just being willing, just being aware and willing to go to any lengths to keep growing, I think is really the key at this point for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like cleansing, and I think what this is trying to ask us is to have this more of an auto response to go as a go-to rather than our usual overreaction. That in my own experience, I'm an overreactor. Automatically changing the dialogue in the moment. That's the training for me. I think that's what I need to work on. That's my work. Also, the amends that I need to make are to myself, and I can't seem to get through those. I can't seem to make them and mean it and feel it. So I'm also working on that a lot. Because whenever I'm mad at somebody, it turns around to me. It's because I'm mad at me, not them. So just a work in progress. I will never be done with this until I'm dead.
So that comes back to part of what I read. does it mean for you that you're forever in the role of victim, even to yourself? That you're suffering in paradise, or bringing the truth home to set yourself free? Like, and what does bringing yourself home really mean? Is it that you're a bad person or doing bad things, or is it just you are programmed to think that your perception of what is going on is bad?
Yes, that's the second one. And so I'm working on flipping the dialogue, and like, I'm not bad. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't intentionally do bad things. That type of dialogue, where I'm trying to, right myself and balance it out. I am, a perfectly harmless human being, and I try not to harm anybody else out there. And that's the best I can do. And every day I do the best I can do. And so I need to get right with that. I'm working on it.
So if you try your best, and if you don't harm anybody out there, why do you think you harm yourself? Or do you?
Self-punishment.
Yeah. So is it that you have a hard time extending the same grace to yourself that you do to other people? Because usually it's the other way around. Well, I don't want to say usually. That's putting worse.
No, I give everybody a red carpet. I have really not much grace for myself. I think I called myself this morning, you're going to have to edit this out, a fucking bitch whore for something I was talking about myself. And I immediately caught it. Like, don't talk to yourself like that, you fucking bitch. I didn't say it like that, but I just can't talk. I can't talk to myself like that, because I would never talk to anybody else like that. It's not right. It's not healthy. And I know it, and I'm aware of it. So it's all of that. It's the shame of the addiction is really the bottom line of it.
So you could say, is it true? Is it really, really, really true?
Well, no, that's what I'm getting at. It's like, are these things I'm thinking about myself true? Mostly not. Mostly not.
I don't think you're the only person that's hard on yourself.
I am the only person that's hard on myself. For no particular reason. Just the way I've always done it.
I can be pretty harsh on myself sometimes as well. And I can't remember who said it, but I read that if I spoke to my friends the way that I spoke to myself, I would very quickly find that I didn't have any friends.
That's what I just said. It's like, I would never talk to a friend like that.
Yeah.
And I should be my own best friend.
Aren't we all harder with ourselves than with others? I mean, the example Craig said, it's pretty much the same with me. I don't even think that I liked myself in the past. I mean, I always tend to think that I would be the one who wouldn't get it, who wouldn't make it, who would be the worst, and I wasn't. But that's how I used to think, and sometimes I don't know why I still do that. I always think that something wrong is going to happen with me, not with someone else. I mean, I don't know if that's something that everyone does, or only people who suffered from something like alcohol and this type of stuff. Like when I joined here, when I joined IRE, I used to see everyone posting X years, and I used to think with myself, oh, are you going to be the only one who won't stop drinking? That's sometimes we're just not fair with us. I don't know how to solve that, or if it's something that can happen, but that's how I feel too, Marla.
I did used to feel like that. I'm going to be one of those unfortunates, because I haven't had a really great recovery. I've had like 4 years at a time. That's about it. But I have.
Okay, but wait. I'm interrupting you. I haven't had that great of recovery. I've only had about 4 years. Can we just flip the script there? Holy shit, Marla, you were sober for 4 freaking years?
I know, it's great. I know.
What?
4 years is a lot. Marla, I'm not even close.
I know.
Diagnosed.
I guess my point was it's like stops and starts with recovery. It's it's really my addiction that keeps me feeling so self-involved.
I think sometimes that voice in your back head can be helpful because it does kind of give you that impetus to strive and push yourself a little bit.
Yeah, because I don't want to feel like this,
Yeah.
I really don't. It's not the way I want to feel. I can change it.
Yeah, but I think it really depends on what voice you want to listen to. It's like the two wolves. The two wolves inside your head. Which one's gonna win? It's the one that you feed.
The one I'm going to learn to feed is the good one, like telling me I'm fine, and I'm doing just fine.
Yeah. Give yourself a pat on the back, and do you know what? It bugs me as well, Amy. The people that come and say, I've only got 4 days, and you're like, holy shit! Do you know what? 4 days.
4 days
I couldn't go 4 hours. There was a time I couldn't go 4 hours without coming home and having a drink. Do you know what? 4 days is absolutely incredible. I remember when I was about a week sober, and I was changing beds, and I was hoovering, I was doing this, that, and then my wife said, she's like, what is going to you? I was like, nothing. I'm just not drinking. I'm just so much more productive. I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing, and I've only got a week in. I'm only a week in, but then putting that only in, I've limited my achievements.
Yeah,
and then I would go back out and drink again because I think, you know what, I'm not really succeeding because I'm only at 7 days. And again, I was surrounding myself by people that have got years and years behind them.
But then being, around people and in the program long enough, you hear that people who've been in the program with great recovery for long periods of time go out. They go back out. So it doesn't, 4 days sobriety is awesome. I remember those days. I don't want to ever go back there. I think now should I ever relapse again? No evil eye on that one, but I have better tools to quickly turn me around again, to get back on the wagon. Plug in the jug.
Plug in the jug. Right. Anything else before we finish up? I think we're going to the questions and answers next week.
I wondered what you were going to do for your 6th sobriety birthday.
Well, it was yesterday.
Oh.
It's fine. I can't control the fact we record this on a Thursday. In fact, next year it actually falls on the day that we record. So, provided that don't mess it up, we can all dress up with our party hats. My wife got me a celebration cake, and she brought me some chocolate. So, I've been sitting getting my way through that, and just the love that I've had from. I didn't realize that I knew so many people. So when the work that I do with RE, the Recovery Elevator, if anybody hits a milestone, I'll always send them a little text, just say huge congratulations on 1 year or 6 months or whatever it is they're doing, and I'll always send them some little message. I didn't appreciate how many people were going to text me this year, and it's not something that's happened before. I just take it for granted. I just send the text out and that's it. But I didn't realize how many people were going to text me. And it's actually been really nice because you don't realize how many people you actually get involved with and how many people you actually help until they come back. And I think this is one of the great things about what we're doing here is the fact that you never know who you're helping just by reaching out and saying well done. And it's exactly what we're talking about there. There's no only in what we're doing. You've done this, and just that one little message to say, congratulations on a week. That's absolutely a phenomenal achievement. It can make the difference between, somebody feeling they've achieved something they haven't. So that's what I've done. I said I was actually my sponsor phoned me a day late to congratulate me, and we were having a laugh about it last week because anytime this crops up, he's like, "Look, my dog's been sober longer than you have. And you want, would you want a pat in the back?" So I was seeing him this year on an airplane with a big skyline, like the sky right in the back of it. But he failed to deliver on that one. But he did phone me a day later to congratulate me.
Even though he was supposed to be on a silent retreat, that's really nice of him. Broke his silence for you. No, Craig, you're great. You're a great person to know in this fellowship because you have a really strong recovery. And those are the people I need to stick with, the winners.
My mentor, Robin Sharma, calls it your circle of influence. Who's in your circle of influence?
People I want to be like.
Who's in that group of people that's going to pick you up and help you along and, tell you you're doing great? Anything else before we finish up?
Just another alcoholic's going to pick you up and pat you on the back. No one else. No one else out there except another alcoholic.
Everybody have an amazing week. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. We'll catch up next week. We'll finish off next week with the questions and answers.
Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.